some type of little mayfly type insect hatching. Upper Wisconsin River, early Monday morning. One of the small flowages upstream from Merrill. Getting warmed up this morning with a little paddling to start out with before I switch over to pedaling. The first bridge that I've encountered so far, just upstream from the next little dam, a little portage, probably about 10 miles maybe north of Merrill, west of Irma. Last night there was a huge hatch of some type of mayfly, and it was just a solid cloud. This morning they're all gone. Just a few remaining on the water surface. The rest have all sunk away. When I pulled in the shore last night, just before dark, it was just a cloud of hatching mayflies, and I camped about 3 miles upstream, and you couldn't see any of them floating on the water. Now I'm just above the dam, and overnight the surface water has collected these mayflies, sandflies, whatever you want to call them, mudflies. Thousands of millions hatched. Lived for a few hours. Completed their life cycle. And now they're fish food. Well, I was slightly mistaken. There is not one dam with a portage. There's actually one dam with a major waterfall ravine, and then there's a side channel that is the canoe route that bypasses that ravine for probably at least a half mile and ends in another control dam with a short portage, hopefully, that will take us to the end of this island, which is right here. We'll get around these trees, and then we'll get a view upstream of the rapids that they created this beautiful little canoe route for. Well, this is the canoe portage around Grandfather Falls. There's one of the old original wooden diversion pipes, and here's the new modern ones, and I believe those are called penstocks, like a propeller at the bottom of these tubes. And up on the other side of that gate is where the kayak is. So we've got to go way down the bottom of that valley. Now this is the bottom of the penstock, the power generators, and then on the left hand side is the long ravine leading to that upper dam, which is called Grandfather Falls. So lots of current, a couple big rocks, and some class 1 rapids down at the bottom. So that's going to be an interesting little jaunt. Made the first trip across with a few of the heavier things, and now I got to go back and get the kayak. Shit! Too shallow. Jeez, it's a rock garden. Alright, let's try this again. Now I'm beginning to see why this is the crossing for the Ice Age Trail. You can walk across here. Alright, one more ripple. It's just shallow rocks. There's no gap. They're right at the surface. Right at the surface. You can see a little bit of disturbance, but the water is so black you can't see the black rocks. And then you get up ahead where it's non-stop ripples, and there's no chute. Right here's a chute. There's a rock right there. There's a rock right there. It's like 6 inches deep. There's a rock right there and a rock right there. Well, got a few scratches on the hull, but all in all, not the worst. I think I'd rather do it in a 12-foot kayak than a 17-foot aluminum canoe. All right, well, we made it past Grandfather Falls. Next stop is the Newwood County Park. Still a few boulders not far below the surface out here, like there. Black rocks and black water. A little piece of Wisconsin wilderness that only a handful of people in canoes ever see. Head to the left. Skirt by this boulder. Might just make it. There's the park. I think. Yep. Newwood County Park. We stopped 20 minutes ago, but I really want to see if they have a water pump. And there's riffles right downstream of the park here too, so I'm still not going to put the prop down. Boom. 6 inches. Yeah, more rocks. Maybe we ought to go around the outside. Should be deeper. This is super shallow. All right. So it's about noon on Monday. I've been paddling and then had the one moderate long portage around Grandfather Falls. Worked up a couple blisters. Just beyond the park in Merrill is the dam that creates this reservoir. It's got one more portage coming here shortly, and I think it'll be basically pretty flat water for the most part today. I'm not sure if I'll cross Highway 51. There is one Class 1 rapids there, but we'll see how far we get. Hard to estimate, but on this flat water, I'd say probably 4 miles an hour, steady walking pace. I need to stop every hour and stretch my legs. But still, it's I would say 1/4 the energy of paddling, which makes sense if your legs are 4 times stronger than your arms. Still need to stop every once in a while and stretch from the repetitive motion. But in general, the Shodan handles camping perfectly. I'd probably lower the kayak a little over an inch and a half. And today we went through a lot of riffles that were 6 inches deep. There's nothing you can do except bang your way through, unfortunately. We're at a bend in the river now. This is called on the map is called Alexander Island.
At least one house over there. So next stop is Council Grounds State Park. Well, Monday afternoon, and I made it to Merrill. Crossed under the highway bridge, and then a railroad bridge, and then another dam to portage around. After that dam, I think will be pretty much open river for the rest of the trip. I don't know what is still in existence in Brokaw. I know there are a couple rapids lower before I reach Wausau, but I think the bridge or the dam in Brokaw has been taken out. They closed the paper mill. This is only the second bridge I've taken, or that I've seen. County road early this morning. Stopped at Council Grounds Park and had to portage around the dam there. It's been kind of slow going since then in these backed up flowages. The last hour or so, the wind has picked up. Of course, it's blowing upstream stronger than the current is flowing downstream. But making progress. Been paddling about 80% of the time today. Pedaled for a couple hours before I got to Council Grounds Park. But otherwise, it's been too shallow. Railroad bridge looks like it has a bunch of rocks dumped underneath it too, so we'll see. Kind of going by all the industrial plants here in Merrill. I think these are window factories. But once I get through this next portage around this next dam, then there's a city park. Probably break out my dinner and get that soaking. Not much for wildlife. A couple deer along the bank. several ospreys, several eagles. Looks like there might be an osprey sitting on the bridge up here. Maybe not. So just keep paddling downstream against the upstream wind. I think this railroad track has been converted into a trail. But then again, there's no guardrails, so maybe not. Alright, can we float through here? Can't see anything because the wind is blowing the wrong way. Looks like old wooden pilings, not rocks. There's no ties up there, no tracks up there, so it's just abandoned. Not a railroad track or a recreational track. Might get converted one of these days. Otherwise I'll have to take it out. Well, I just left Riverside Park on the southeast corner of Merrill. I was on the northwest corner of Merrill at noon, and it's now 6 o'clock. To get all the way around, including 2 portages, took me 6 hours. The last portage was at the hydro dam right smack in the center of Merrill. And then there's the standard riffle downstream from that. I didn't have to paddle very far, maybe only half a mile, to get to Riverside Park, and thankfully they had a faucet with running water. So I've got all my water bottles filled. I've got my supper cold soaking. I even have a Nalgene with the right amount of water for my instant coffee in the morning. So now I'm paddling down kind of the wild part of the Wisconsin River. And I think there's just going to be a series of riffles. Here there's just some boils on the water, so it's deep. boulders down there. And I'm just afraid of putting the prop drive down, pedal drive down. Part of what took me the longest getting around Merrill was there was no current. It was two different flowages, and what little wind there was against me. I was able to pedal at the upper lake, coming up to Council Grounds Park, and then I folded the drive up while I did the portage, and then it wasn't going to be just too much longer, and then there was going to be another portage, so I never folded it down. But there were just numerous shallow spots, little reefs, little rock bars, and I've got one coming up right ahead now. So it's just I think that's just going to be the pattern of the river. There's going to be a little ripple, and then there'll be a deeper pool, and then a little riffle and a deeper pool. And I think they're doing a fawn on the bank over there. I think they took the dam out at Brokaw, so I don't think there's another dam. So I think this is just the natural flow of the river from here on out, and that's going to mean I think it's going to be paddling pretty much full time. Right now it's pretty deep. Can't touch the bottom easily. But there's some standing waves here from must be some big granddaddy boulders down there. Right past this tree as I go on the farm. Obviously seen a few things float by, but never anything that came out of the water to chase them. Well, I have a little stretch here to paddle east, and then the river makes a right-hand turn and heads straight south. And somewhere along that stretch is where I plan to camp for the night. Unless the nature of the river changes drastically, I think it's going to be paddling from here on out. The good news is, if it's narrow and rocky, that means means I'm actually going to have some current instead of 3-4 miles an hour on flat water. I would say probably this could be 5 miles an hour. It's hard to judge when the water's moving. Okay, that's all for now.
Well, this is definitely my favorite stretch of river so far. Just past this little island. Had a little sand beach, a nice little grove of trees for hammock. But it's an hour too early. I've got something along to read, but got a nice current, and there's a shore. This is just natural shoreline, so there are places to pull out here and there. It isn't like the little flowages where the water's up right to the edge of the trees. It was a pretty straight stretch a little ways back, and just a little deep, and almost ready to put the pedal drive down. There's a big boil on the surface, and evidently it was several rocks, and I scraped it going across. So it's starting to convince me that this is the pattern. You got a little rock bar, you've got a shoal where the river makes a little bend here. I wouldn't be going any faster with the pedal drive, and I wouldn't have I'd have to paddle anyway, because I don't have the instant steering control that you have. Not that this turns very well to begin with. There is a little keel at the very front, so when you point it in a direction, it pretty much stays, but you got a rock here, you got another rock up ahead to the left, and who knows what's in between. Could be a continuous bar that goes all the way across here. So, until further notice, this is going to be a paddling kayak excursion. I saw a house up on a hill, and I saw one no trespassing sign. But I think pretty much on one side or the other, this is power company land, or some form of public land, county land, township land. So now here's another nice straight stretch. I can't touch bottom. Alright, I talked myself into it. At least to that next bend. If I stay right down the middle, I think I can make it. I've got the paddle handy if I need to maneuver, but this is the rear rudder. And let's see if we can go right down the center. How long this lasts before the next riffle. Oh, I can see the next riffle already ahead. Standing waves. Well, that's not going to work. You've got just a little natural resistance. All right, back to paddling again.
We've got a shallow rock bar here to slide through. I don't see any channel, so it's probably just going to be a drag. Bump, bump, bump. Not enough water to fill the boat. Just upstream from the 51 bridge. 3 or 4 little chutes here, and they're all the same. Literally ankle deep. All right. How fast can we get in? Here we go. Well, that was fun. That was the first. I've had plenty of rock gardens, but there was enough volume. This is spread out over just such a wide area that there's not enough water stacked up. But that's okay. And even better, it's within sight of the 51 bridge, which was my wild ass guess how far I could get today. Hopefully. It didn't look that way mid-afternoon, I can tell you that. So we'll see what happens next. Once I cross under the bridge, I start looking for campsites.
So this is Tuesday morning. Just got done having breakfast. My patio chair out here on the water because there were a few mosquitoes in the woods. I found this little rocky bar, and there was a path where people had gone up and down in the past, including deer, and some nice pines in there and some open ground, so nice place to hang the hammock. Just downstream from where Highway 51 crosses the Wisconsin River, and the river here makes a bend and heads south, and the next stop will be Brokaw. Gonna have another nice sunny day, another series of pools and riffles, so my expectation is that until further notice, it's going to be paddling day. So we'll see what happens. Curious but not afraid. Early morning on Tuesday. I'm at the Pine Bluff Road landing, mile 151.5. Pine Bluff Road. I think Merrill was 134. Wisconsin River Forest Landing, Pine Bluff Road. And I camped right on this bend. So I'm making pretty good time this morning, right there. It's called a landing. It's not a landing that you would use a trailer for. It's strictly for canoes. So the next takeout is Brokaw Mill. We're at 151, so 5.5 miles to Brokaw Mill, and my goal was to be there by noon. And it's only 8 o'clock. So I did this in an hour. I should be able to do that in an hour and a half. There is a rapids here 1 mile down. I don't know what to expect there. But otherwise it's just been riffle, 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 riffle all the way through here. Railroad track goes right by. It went right across the river from where I was camped last night. It sounded like they were coming right into my bed. So I'm going to take out there, and then we'll oversee what happens here. And then my destination is Schofield Park, so that's only 11 miles. $5 an hour, that's 2 hours. So somebody obviously is going to do a shuttle. They dropped off their canoe already. And this is the landing. It would be kind of easy to overlook. It's not much of a landing, but there is a break in the shoreline. But the main thing I was looking for on the map was, this is the closest point to the freeway. You can see the cars going by, trucks, and the highway noise is just super loud. But you can also see the bubbles going by, so it's a pretty steady pace, despite the fact that there's a rapids downstream that basically acts as a low water dam. So I have to filter some water here because I'm just about out. I don't want to run out. And have a little snack, and then buckle up for one more rapids.
So I'm now downstream of the landing, curving away from the freeway temporarily. And there's supposed to be the trap rapids ahead. I just ran into two fishermen that are floating this same stretch down the Brokaw. They're in a tandem aluminum canoe with their fishing gear and 2 anchors. So I'm expecting if there's enough water to float them through, should be no problem for me to bounce through. We'll see how much water there is. Beautiful day so far. Nice quiet stretch here right above Trap Rapids. It looks like just a short drop, a rock bar that goes across the river here. Normally you have some current in the outside bend. We'll see if that's true. It looks like the current is going diagonally to the other side. A couple of big boulders right in front of me. A couple standing waves. I only need about 3 or 4 inches of water, so I'm going to try and go to the outside of these rocks. Well, evidently that was Trap Rapids. Made kind of an S-curve. But I kind of learned yesterday that where there's an actual rapids, the water piles up and kind of float right through. It's the shallow riffles that were a pain somewhere. If they were less than 6 inches deep, you were just forced to bump your way through. So taking a little break at the official Brokaw landing. This is upstream from the city of Brokaw, and there's no portage here. This is just a landing if you're taking out, from like a canoe trip. And once I get around the corner, then I'll be going through the city of Brokaw, and on the south side of that is the remnants of the old dam from the paper mill. So I've got to skirt that. So that'll be the next challenge. We'll see how that goes. So I'm only a half mile downstream from that Brokaw landing. One more little riffle here. I'll be going under the bridge that comes downhill from 51 to Brokaw. And then beyond that is the old dam, so we'll see what happens here. Shallow riffle. Play the odds and take the outside bend here. Even as far north as Brokaw, these gravel bars, you could walk across and be knee deep in the mighty Wisconsin River. Riffles are nice. Adds a little speed to the current. Coming up on the old Brokaw Dam. Apparently there's just one ledge. It's making a heck of a racket. Could hear it for a mile. So stay on the southwest corner. I guess that's the outside of the drop. doesn't appear to be any rocks. It must be a just a concrete ledge. Question is there enough water to float across without getting hung up? Don't want to pinwheel around right there. Some debris on the surface there, so that's a shallow spot. When in doubt, take the smoothest tongue of water. Well, that was a water conveyor belt. There's the old remnants of the old dam. Evidently they built it between these rock walls. Pretty uneventful. Basically a downhill ripple. I never felt the rock. There was plenty of water volume. There's another footing. Evidently flooding and ice took that out. So the next question will be, at this next corner, as it turns south, that's the upper reaches of the flowage in Wausau. And I finish out by pedaling the last couple miles. Another near wilderness section of the Wisconsin River, within a mile of the takeout in Wausau. The Canadian shoreline. So where the pedal drive earns its keep is this type of condition. For the last hour, I've been pedaling straight into the wind. And I would say I'm still maintaining 4 or 5 miles an hour. If I was paddling like a solo canoe, I'd probably be doing half that. So the added weight of the pedal drive and the larger pedal kayak isn't necessarily a huge issue if you're on a section that has no portages or very easy portages. And I'm also thinking of the lower Wisconsin River where there are lots of shallow sandbars, but not as many rock riffles. So we're going to be finishing up here in probably another 15 minutes, get around the corner and be at the takeout. It's just after noon on Tuesday. Put in the water at about 4:30 Sunday night. And best I can estimate, it's somewhere between 45 and 50 miles as the river snakes its way down from just below the Tomahawk Reservoir to the outskirts of Wausau here. So lots of exercise. But it's been a good trip. 2 nights of hammock camping in my Haven tent. I have not seen another boat anywhere on this section the whole day. I met 2 fellows in a aluminum kayak that were going to kayak from the upper landing down to the Brokaw and fish along the way. A few boats tied up along the shoreline here, but I've not seen a boat on the water. I haven't seen anybody fishing. Another mile into the wind and I'll be there.